Peace, you guys. It's a little bit dark. I apologize for that. I really don't know how to fix it because I got all kinds of lights in here. Hold on, let's see. Does that make a difference? No, not really. Not a good difference. It's not dark. It looks so dark to me. Oh, thank you, Natasha. You like my hair, girl? Yes, I got some naps. It's really cute when I wear it down, but I wasn't in the mood for all that tonight. Um, so the broadcast doesn't look dark to you guys? Because I'm gonna be recording it
per usual. Let me put this diffuser back on the light. Okay, so at least the camera where I'm recording this for real is not looking dark. Um, so when I chop it up for you guys, it should look pretty decent. Um, okay. I am recording from my bed. Recording from my bed tonight, you guys. Hey, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Okay, you can hear me. Okay. All right. Let's see, who do we have here? We got 8 people. Okay, so Latanya's not coming. I don't know if Tanisha's going to be able to come. And Sophia says she couldn't come. Okay, so that's everybody. My sister will be on a little bit later. Okay. All right, everybody. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Any sharing that you guys would like to do? Sharing is caring. Let me turn this phone off. I don't know how to do it on iPad. Hope it doesn't ring. Okay, no questions. So we are going to talk about the healing properties of herbs tonight. Okay. And I'm thinking about doing this class in 2 parts. Like I'm going to just go through like my lecture part where I'm just talking to you, telling you things that I want you to know. And then I may do a Zoom at the end just so that you guys can ask questions, because next week we're going to be making our preparations together. And so I want to kind of make sure we're all on the same page for that. How does that sound? But it depends on how long the recording part goes, because you know that can get kind of crazy, which I'm starting right now. Okay. Greetings. I am Reverend Priestess Oshun Funke, And today I'm going to be talking to you about working with medicinal herbs. This is a book that I love very, very much. It is the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. It's a book that is part of my collection. It has been in my collection for many years. I love it. I use it quite often. And I definitely suggest that you have this book or one like it in your collection if you plan on working with herbs or making herbal medicines. I really believe in herbal medicine, especially for simple, everyday ailments, colds, coughs, skin conditions, even inflammation and swelling and things of that nature. Let me just say that this broadcast is not meant to take the place of any type of medical attention. If you are suffering from any medical issues, you must see a doctor or a medical professional. I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse. I am not even a certified herbalist. I am one who loves nature and plants, and I try my best to educate myself on the use of plants and incorporate it into my lifestyle. So nothing that you will hear in this class is meant to substitute for medical advice or conventional medicine. Okay. Um, so when working with herbs, the first thing that you need to know about any particular plant is what parts of the plant are available for usage when it comes to medicine. What parts of the plants can be used for medicines? Depending on the type of plant that you are using, you may be able to use the flowers. And the flowers of the plant are just that, the flowering part of the plant or the herb or the tree. The flowers of plants have always been used and are popular in traditional medicine. Examples of flowers that are used in medicine would be chamomile. We use chamomile for tea, and chamomile can also be incorporated into skincare products because of its calming nature. The parts of the flower specifically that are used are the stamens, as in the case of saffron, or the stigmas, as in the case of maize, or even the pollen. And you will use flower pollen quite often if you use royal honey as a base for your jellies or syrups that you might make. Flowers are obviously aromatic, and so they can be used in preparations where one will inhale the medicine, as in a steam preparation or an infusion that is meant to be inhaled. They can also be used in sprays, aromatic sprays that are meant to be inhaled. You can also use flowers in sachets and even baths, and the steam or heat will release the active ingredients that may be contained in the flower, releasing its magic and medicine into your blend. Many flowers are edible, so you should definitely do your research before opting to use a flower. Even if other parts of the plant are edible, the flower may not be. So make sure that you do your research to find out if the flower is edible, but many flowers are and can be included in your medicines and preparations. Hibiscus flower is another flower that is commonly used in herbal medicines. It's a beautiful red flower. When you create an infusion or a tincture from it, it makes a beautiful color ranging from purple to bright pinks, just depending on the saturation. And hibiscus is known to naturally and quite effectively lower blood pressure. Calendula is another flower that is often used in herbal medicine, and it should definitely be a part of your herbal medicine cabinet. You will use calendula in recipes surrounding skincare, skin ailments, irritations, inflammation, and things of that sort. It's very effective. Lavender is another flower that is often used for its aroma. Lavender has many medicinal properties. Lavender can address headaches, it can address swelling, and it is absolutely calming and will help with relaxation if a person is having trouble with anxiety or even sleep. Another part of the plant that can be used in herbal medicine are the bulbs. And the bulb of a plant is defined as a fleshy structure comprised of numerous layers of leaf bases, otherwise known as bulb scales. An example of a bulb that you might use in your herbal medicine preparations would be an onion or a garlic. Okay, and so these are herbs that we use quite often. Garlic is actually effective for a number of ailments ranging from inflammation to asthma to infections of all kinds. Garlic has natural antibacterial and antifungal properties. So it's definitely an herb that you want to get very familiar with and keep in your herbal medicine cabinet. Another part of the plant that you will use for medicines are the seeds. Seeds, the seeds of many plants are edible and they have very concentrated constituents in them. As with any herb or plant, you must do your research before using it to find out how it affects the body and whether or not there is any toxicity associated with it. But there are many plants whose seeds have very strong medicinal properties. Examples of this would be the burdock plant. The seeds of the burdock plant support the kidney, liver, and even eye health. Coriander would be another example. And actually, coriander is the seed of the cilantro plant. And coriander has natural anti inflammatory properties. Mustard seed is another very common seed that would be used in herbal medicines. Mustard seed increases the metabolism, so it can help with weight loss. Mustard seed is also effective in the treatment of asthma, and mustard seed has very promising anti-cancer properties. The seeds of a plant may actually be found encased in the fruit of the plant, or they may be contained in a bulb-like structure, or they may be easily scattered. So depending on whether you are harvesting your seeds naturally or growing your plants or purchasing them, you'll need to know how the seeds are actually found in nature so that you can best collect them and use them in your medicinal practice. The fruits of plants have always been used for medicine. Fruits are very delicious and we enjoy them, and we don't often think about the medicinal properties. Papaya would be a good example of that. This sweet and exotic fruit actually has very, very useful digestive or pre-digestive enzymes. So if you have a sluggish gut, if you have any type of digestive problems, particularly anything related to your pancreas, or gallstones for that matter, papaya is going to be very effective to eat prior to a meal or just after it, and it will help with the digestion of the meal, making it easier for your body to, your body won't have to work as hard. Also, the seeds of the papaya can be used to make a tincture that can also be used for the same purpose. Lemon is another fruit that has very many useful medicinal properties. Lemon is a very wonderful detoxifier. And kiwi would be another example of a delicious fruit that also has medicinal properties. Kiwi has been shown to calm irritable bowels. So if you have irritable bowel syndrome or any type of inflammation affecting the bowel, kiwi would be an effective addition to your diet. And kiwi also has a high concentration of vitamin A, which is very good for eye health and certain eye conditions. As with any other type of herb, plant, or substance, you need to do your research prior to incorporating these items into your diet to find out how they will affect the body. But fruit can definitely be added to your diet to alleviate minor medical conditions. Okay, we'll stop there. All right, y'all, I'm just downloading part 1 so I can get started on the second part. Questions, comments, concerns, talk to me. I like hibiscus too. Jamaicans call it sorrel, and Mexicans call it Jamaica, and Africans call it bistop. But it's all just basically the hibiscus flower, and it makes a beautiful tea. It's beautiful in color and it tastes really good. It's kind of tart naturally. It'll kind of put you in the mind of cranberry juice, but it's not quite that tangy, but it's really good. Will the herb work the same? I've actually never used fresh hibiscus. I've only encountered the dried. So I know that the dried is very effective. I would imagine that the fresh would be too. I'm just wondering about sourcing fresh hibiscus flowers, and then you would need a boatload of it. Which we're going to talk about that later when I get into the different type of preparations. You'll see how much herb is required when you're dealing with dried versus fresh herbs. It's a big difference. Yeah, if you go to any Jamaican restaurant, they usually have sorrel on the menu, but you can just order the hibiscus flowers. You can order a hibiscus tea bags. I bet you can find them in the grocery store. Actually, now that I think about it, you can find hibiscus tea at Kroger or wherever in tea bag form. Oh, you were asking about herbs in general. So it really depends on the herb, Latanya, how effective it is. And a lot of that information is in the book. I really love how thorough this book is. It's a lot of reading. I'm not really crazy about how it's set up. I would actually set my book up differently if I were writing the book. But it does have a lot of information in here about each herb. And some of the herbs, it will tell you that it's going to be a lot more potent fresh. And then other herbs actually gain potency when they are dried. It's like it concentrates the medicinal constituents. So it's going to vary a little bit from herb to herb. Most of the herbs, well, I can't really say most of it, but I use a lot of dried herbs. I mean, I use them. It just depends on what the herb is and whether or not I can get a hold of the fresh herb, whether I'll use it or not. Okay, it's almost done downloading. Yeah, you can. I'm convinced that I've seen sorrel or hibiscus at the grocery store, like at Kroger. So I'm pretty sure you can find it anywhere. But definitely like a Sprouts or a Whole Foods, they're gonna have it for sure. Y'all, excuse me 1 second. Okay. All right, so I'm ready to get started. Okay, we talked about fruits. Now we're going to talk about leaves. Are you guys taking notes? I feel like this lecture has a lot of really good information in it. Um, so definitely take notes. Okay. All right. Quite naturally, when we think about using herbs, we think about leaves. Quite commonly, in our everyday lives, whether it's to make a glass of or a cup of tea, or whether we are crumbling the herbs up and adding them to a bath. So, yes, the leaves of plants can absolutely be used in making herbal medicines. A very common and very potent leaf that I use all the time would be mint. There are many different species of mint. You have peppermint, spearmint, wintergreen, and they have similar properties, but you would want to research them to find out exactly what each one does and how it can be incorporated into your practice. When using the leaves, you can use them fresh or you can use them dried. Generally, you're going to need quite a lot more of the fresh herb than you would the dried herb. Okay. Funengrank. Ugh. Oh, mint. So, mint is an herb that you would definitely want to keep in your medicine cabinet. Mint is very good for purifying the blood. It's also quite effective for oral health. It can be incorporated into natural mouthwashes, homemade toothpaste, And mint is also very cooling, so it's effective when someone has a fever, for example. Um, Fenugreek is another herb whose leaves are very potent and should be part of your herbal medicine cabinet. Fenugreek lowers cholesterol. It has shown much promise in fighting liver cancer in particular, and it is very useful for lactating mothers. It can actually support the production of breast milk. So these are just a couple of herbs, specifically leaves, that you should have in your herbal medicine cabinet. The stems, the stalk, and the wood of, let me start over with that. I'm sorry, my sister's texting me. That threw me off. The stem, the stalk, and the wood of herbs can also be used to make natural medicines. Sandalwood would be an example of a wood that is incorporated into herbal medicines. And also, I don't even know how to say this. Sandalwood would be a great example of a wood that can be turned into herbal medicine. So while the wood of a plant may be used in herbal medicine, it's important to distinguish between the wood and the bark. So the wood may actually come from stems, it may come from the limbs of a tree or shrub, whereas the bark is actually just the outer coating of the plant. And so the bark specifically is the protective outer layer of a tree trunk that is formed in layers of living cells above the wood. Okay, so the wood would actually be under the bark. Both the wood and the bark can have medicinal properties depending on what plant you're talking about. Active ingredients are often found in much higher concentrations in the bark of a plant or tree. Examples of barks that are used for their medicinal properties would be quinine bark. Quinine has many uses, from medicine to even industrial uses like paint thinner and things of that sort. Oak bark is used in very many medicines. Pepper bark and willow bark. So research the plants that you're interested in and find out if the barks can actually be incorporated into your practice. Also, cinnamon is actually the bark of a tree. Resins are, what the hell? Why did my thing stop recording? What does that mean? No more shot is available. Okay. Okay. I don't know what happened, but I'm tired of fooling with this camera. I'm not gonna record it. I'm just gonna talk to you guys. Matter of fact, I want to switch to Zoom because I was only doing YouTube so that I could record it. Um, hold on, let me get that up and ready. Well, you know what? I'll keep going here because people, they can go to Zoom too. I'm gonna keep going. Keep our lives simple, right? Okay. Any questions, you guys? Okay. So I was talking about plant barks. Okay. And so yeah, those are the different types of barks that you can use in your practice. Um, Another part of the plant that is usable in plant medicine would be resins. Okay, so the resins are actually kind of like, well, let me tell you what the definition is. Resins are a mixture of essential oils and terpenes that are usually not soluble in water. They are excreted by specialized cells or in ducts of plants. An example would be frankincense, myrrh, or mastic. Okay, and mastic is actually kind of like plastic, as are many of these resins. They actually have a very odd texture. And usually, the resin can be harvested from a plant if the plant is like scarred or scratched and then left. The plant will more or less bleed this liquidy substance that will then harden in some form, and then we can use that in our preparations. And so that's how frankincense and myrrh are harvested, and also mastic. Okay. And so these are items that can be included in your herbal practice. Um, of course, the roots of plants can be used in herbal medicine, and the roots are the fleshy or woody parts of the plant that are found underground. The roots can be solid, like in a ginseng, for example, where they're very, very solid and hard. Or they can be very fibrous, like in stinging nettles, or they can be fleshy, like in the plant devil's claw. Okay, but these are all the parts of the plants that are found underground. So that's what the roots are. Okay. A tuber is another part of the plant that's found underground, but it is defined as a swollen, fleshy structure that's found below ground. Tubers are usually of a stem origin, meaning if they were above ground, they would be a stem, but because they're underground, they turn into this tuber type thing. So they're not actually a root, they're like an underground stem, and they can be used for medicinal properties. An example of a tuber would be the African potato, and this is an herb that is often used in medicine. And there's an herb called the autumn crocus that would be an example of a tuber, okay, that can be used in your herbal practice. Now, not to be confused with a rhizome, which is yet another underground part of the plant. A rhizome is defined as the fleshy or woody, elongated stem that usually grows horizontally below the ground. The rhizome often produces leaves above the ground and roots in the ground. So the rhizome is a horizontal part that grows underground. And an example of this, a very common example, would be ginger. Okay, so ginger is a rhizome that we use quite often. I know I love ginger. I use it in cooking. I use it in medicine. I use it in magic. I love ginger. Wild columbine would be another example of a rhizome, and bloodroot would be another example of a rhizome that has medicinal properties. Okay. So those are all the underground parts of plants. Now let's talk about um, gum, which I should have talked about a little bit earlier when we talk about resins. But the gum of a plant, some plants have gums. All plants do not produce gum. Okay. Um, but gums are solids that are mixtures of polysaccharides, which are sugars. They are water soluble, and they are in part digestible by humans. So there are many different plants that make a gum type substance. It's basically a sugar, and all of it cannot be digested, which is why you are don't swallow gum. So gum is actually a naturally occurring thing. Of course, the chewing gum and things that we see in stores these days may have natural gums as part of the recipe, but more often than not, it's just a bunch of chemicals and even plastic. So be careful chewing gum. But natural gums are just sugars that are complex sugars that are produced by plants, and you can do your research to find out which plant gums are edible or appropriate for medicine. Let's talk about oils. Okay. There are fatty oils that are produced by plants, and these are defined as non-volatile vegetable oils, which are pressed from the seeds or the fruits of plants. Okay. So an olive oil would be an example of a plant that where the fruit produces the seed. And even coconut oil is pressed from the actual fruit of the plant. And these fatty oils are not soluble in water, meaning they won't mix. So if you put them in water, you'll have a layer of oil and a layer of water. So they're insoluble. Examples of fatty oils that are used in medicine would be castor oil, olive oil, safflower oil. Some fatty oils have direct medicinal properties, meaning the oil itself is medicinal, while others are just suitable to be used as a carrier oil or a carrier liquid for other herbs and items that you would infuse the oil with. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Essential oils would be the other type of oils that plants produce. And essential oils are defined as volatile oils. Um, and they are generally extracted from plants using a steam distillation process. Examples of these volatile oils include camphor and peppermint oils, okay, or any essential oil, really. Some of them are more volatile than others, and you feel free to look that word up. This is not a chemistry class. Okay, so now that we know the different parts of the plant that can be used in our practice, and I'm just going to review that. We have the flowers, the bulbs, the seeds, the fruit, the leaves, the stems, the stalk, and the wood, the plant bark. We have resins and gums. We have the underground portions of the plant, which would be the tubers, the rhizome, and the roots. Okay. So those are all the different parts of the plants that can be used in your medicinal preparations. So now that we know what parts of the plants we're going to use, let's talk about why we would use them, or more specifically, what type of ailments or parts of the body can we address with herbal medicine? Well, the truth is all of them, okay? Medicinal herbal medicine can address every part of the body. This is how we have been curing ourselves, how our ancestors handled illness, and we can still do it today. We just need to know how. So what I'm going to talk about now are just a few, I'm going to talk about the body systems and examples of how herbal medicine can be used to address those body systems and the ailments that may stem or may arise from those particular systems. The first and possibly most important system is going to be your immune system. It's your first line of defense. If you have a healthy immune system, you won't have problems with dis-ease. Okay. So taking care of the immune system can prevent diseases of many, many kinds. Daily preventative measures for the immune system are really highly recommended when you're talking about an herbal lifestyle, because it's better. I mean, they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if you are a wise woman and you are living a natural lifestyle, and that's the type of example that you want to live or lead for your children and your descendants, then it's better to prevent illness than it is to treat it. And so working with the immune system is really the first thing that you want to do. There are many things that you can do to shore up or strengthen the immune system. Simply adding more garlic to your diet would be the first one. Garlic lowers the blood pressure. Garlic works on the cholesterol. Garlic is also antifungal and antibacterial. So just including more garlic in your food, both raw and cooked, is like a major thing that you can do to help yourself. Also, preventative daily regimens like cod liver oil. And the thought of it literally makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. But my grandmother used to give us cod liver oil, and my mother would do it too. And it's horrible stuff, but I never got sick as a child. Elderberry syrup would be another example of something that you can do, particularly this time of year. You hear I have a little something going on in my throat right now. I probably should be on a regimen that will keep cough and cold and throat things away. And then I already mentioned garlic. You can even make a garlic tincture and just take a few drops every day. That would help so much in terms of preventing things. Your skin. Your skin is actually your largest organ. And so not only is it important because it is what your body is covered in, it is the largest organ, but the skin also can speak to the overall health of the body. So if you have a lot of skin conditions, if you're breaking out in rashes in different places, if you have discoloration, discoloration can absolutely indicate toxicity in the body, particularly if it's on the neck, even on the face. Different parts of the body that show up with discoloration can indicate that the body is toxic and that you need a really good cleanse and that the body needs to be detoxified. So taking care of the skin and paying attention to the skin is a very big way to impact the overall health of the body using herbs. Okay. The respiratory system can absolutely be helped with herbs. Asthma, there are many natural treatments for asthma. For example, nettle is an herb that's very effective for asthma, and also German chamomile. Now, if you are currently, or you have a loved one who is currently asthmatic and uses an inhaler, by no means am I saying stop giving them the inhaler and turn to herbs, but I would absolutely research how herbs can be incorporated in the diet and in the daily practice so that maybe the inhaler would not have to be used as often. Okay. The cardiovascular system can be helped with herbs. We've already talked about garlic and how garlic helps high blood pressure, but also herbs can address anemia, which would be another problem of the blood. Nettle, which I mentioned for asthma, is also effective for anemia, particularly anemia that arises from heavy periods, okay? Heavy menstrual periods. The endocrine system, which is your glandular system, can definitely benefit from herbal medicine and herbal support. The thyroid, for example. There are many different herbs that specifically target the thyroid and the adrenals, and you definitely just want to do your research and look those up. The digestive system, which would include the stomach, the bowels, the pancreas, the gallbladder, the colon. There are a number of different herbs that can be incorporated into the diet. So here's the interesting thing, you guys. Herbs can be incorporated into the diet and just eaten, okay? Eaten as part of a salad, used as seasoning, and drank as tea. And you don't really have to prepare anything. You can just include them, like in the case of cilantro or fenugreek or garlic or papaya. That's why it's very good to get to know. Read this book. Like, it's a beautiful book. It has full color pictures, which is why it was like $40. But it's worth it. Read this book. Find out about the herbs and how you can incorporate them into your life. It's not necessary for you to always make something or create something. God has already done it for us. Eladumare, in all his wisdom, Ashe, has already given us what we need. So just start reading about these herbs, becoming truly a wise woman, learning about these herbs and how to incorporate them into your diet will go a long ways. And remember, we are more about prevention than we are about cures. So when it comes to the digestive system, you definitely want to incorporate and eat these medicinal herbs that are going to help your system. The urinary system, which would include the kidneys and the bladders, the musculoskeletal system, which would include bones, joints, and muscles, can definitely be helped with herbs. If you have problems with aching joints, I'm going to say garlic about 100 times tonight, but garlic can definitely be incorporated into your diet, turned into a medicine that will help with inflammation, swelling, and all of that. Black seed oil is another one that helps with inflammation. The reproductive system can be addressed with herbs. Really, every system, but I'm just going to go through them one by one. The uterus, for example, clary sage is very effective for menstrual issues. There are even herbs that specifically address fibroids. I'm not going to give a list here because I, again, do not want to attempt to substitute what I'm saying for medical care. But I would suggest that if you are a woman suffering from fibroids or have a loved one who is, there is a plethora of research on herbal medicine and what we can do to incorporate herbs into our diet to affect these conditions. The breast can also be helped with herbs. We already talked about Funengreek and nursing mothers. There are also herbs that can be used to assist with engorgement after childbirth. And then we have, cysts on the ovaries and also prostate. So really every bodily system can be addressed with herbs. You just need to know what these herbs do. And then once you know what they do, then you need to know how to prepare them, which is the next section that I'm going to talk about. So now that we know the parts of the herbs that can be used, and we know the parts of the body that can be addressed with herbal medicine, how do we make the medicine? Well, one of the first and very effective ways of creating herbal medicine is a tincture. Okay. I make lots of tinctures. I have them all over the place. They're very easy to make and they last almost indefinitely, which makes them very, very important. Okay. So you don't have to worry about them going bad or going stale or what have you. A tincture is simply an herbal infusion created in alcohol. Okay, so you get a bunch of herbs, and I'm going to give you a very quick recipe, but of course, I want you to do your own research, wise woman. And this is the kind of thing that you're going to put in your grimoire, these very quick recipes that I'm giving you, because they can be made with any manner of herbs. So the recipe that I'm going to give you for a tincture is going to be 200 grams of dried herbs or 300 grams of fresh herbs and 1 quart of alcohol. Okay, so you're going to chop, tear, or whatever you want to do to those herbs, pound them in a mortar and pestle, and then you're going to put them in a glass jar and you're going to cover them with 1 quart of alcohol. You're going to put this, it needs to be in glass. Get in the habit of always using glass, okay? Stay away from metals and absolutely stay away from plastics, okay? I prefer glass vessels with cork tops, but you can't always find cork to fit, especially if we're talking about a larger item. So then in that case, I'll use metal. Sometimes I will put a layer of muslin between the metal and the glass, or even wax paper, only because alcohol can be corrosive over time, and definitely some of the stronger herbs they have constituents in them that can be corrosive to metal over time, and you don't want any of that leaching into your mixture. Okay. So again, the recipe for the tincture would be, yes, drinking alcohol, Velarde. So when I'm talking about alcohol here, I am talking about high proof alcohol. Rum. Rum is really good when you're trying to mask the flavor of a particular herb, especially if it's like something that's bitter or nasty. Rum has a flavor of its own, rum or brandy. So you can use that to kind of mask the flavor. But in general, I like a very high proof alcohol. I will even splurge on like grain alcohol like Everclear. It's pretty expensive, but it is going to do the job like nobody's business. But you have to dilute the hell out of that tincture when you're finished, because it will literally burn a hole in your chest. Okay. But you want a high proof alcohol, 1 quart, and then you want to add 200 grams of dried herbs or 300 grams of fresh herbs. Put them together in a jar, put them somewhere out of direct sunlight, and shake it up every day and let it sit for 2 to 3 weeks. Strain it, and now you have a medicine that you can use forever and ever. Amen. Okay. The next type of preparation would be an ointment, or as the old folks call it, a salve. Okay. And how you make a salve, and a salve is basically a skin cream. Okay. It's just an ointment that you put on your skin. And you're going to use 60 grams of a dried herb, whatever herb you're using, or 150 grams of a fresh herb. And then you're going to use 500 grams of a wax or a butter. Okay. So you can actually use a paraffin wax. You can actually use a very soft wax like beeswax, which is just very luxurious. I love beeswax. Or you can use, and I think these days, I would use shea butter or even cocoa butter, like the pure cocoa butter, or even avocado butter. There's so many truly luxurious butters that you can order that are going to be pure, that you can use as carrier products for your herbs. So just do your research on that. But that would be how you make a salve. And you basically are going to heat your carrier, whether it's the beeswax or the butters. Be very careful of, learn your product and know what its response to heat is, because some things you can actually ruin with heat. So you don't want to overheat it, but you're basically going to heat it, and you're going to add, the herbs to it and let it steep for a while and infuse. And then, you can either strain it or leave the herbs in there. And then now you have a ointment or a salve for the skin. The next product or herbal preparation would be an infused oil. Okay. And there are different ways to infuse an oil. You can heat infuse an oil, or you can do a cold infusion. I do both, and both of them are equally as effective. It just depends on the purpose, the end purpose of the oil, and also the ingredients that you're using. Okay. So, heat infused oils are going to be most potent when they are made fresh. A heat infused oil is not going to have a very long shelf life, maybe a year or less. And that's if you store it in a cool place, in a dark jar or bottle. It's just not going to have the staying power of other types of preparations. I mean, but a year is still a long time. And realistically, when you're making a heat infused oil, you just want to make a small batch, use it to treat whatever you have going on, and then move on, or make another one if you need it. Okay. To make a heat infused oil, you're going to use 250 grams of dried herb or 500 grams of fresh herb. and then 3 cups of carrier oil. And then you're going to heat this over a very low and steady heat. Very, very low, very, very steady for about 4 hours. It just depends, again, on the herb that you're using and how strong you need your infusion to be. Do your research. You're going to have to trial and error it. But when I say low, I mean very low. Like you can use a crock pot for this, that low. You can even use a crock pot and create a double boiler in a crock pot. Okay, you want it to just be a very low, gentle heat. If you're going to do it that way with the crock pot and the double boiler, then you're probably going to need to infuse it for like 12 to 24 hours because that heat is going to be very low. But I do think that you will have a superior product because you will be slowly leaching the active ingredients out of the. You'll be slowly leaching the ingredients into the oil. Okay. A cold infusion for oils is going to follow the same recipe: 250 grams of dried herb to 500 grams of fresh herb. And then you're going to use 3 cups of carrier oil. And you're going to shake it daily, 2 to 3 times a day. And you're going to keep it out of sunlight. Now, the one caution with a cold infused oil is that if you are using fresh herbs, you have to be very, very careful that it doesn't mold. So you're going to have to babysit that oil, watch it, make sure that after shaking it, all of the herbs are under the oil and that there aren't any sticking up, because that can lead to mold. Okay. That's why whenever I make a cold infusion, I like to use dried herbs. Okay. The other way around that is if you're going to use fresh herbs, you can put a couple of drops of essential oil in your mixture, depending on what you're making, because the essential oil will stave off mold and mold and fungus. Okay. But I do like to make a cold infused oil. I make them quite often I make oils using the leftover flowers that I offer to Oshun on my Oshun altar. So I save all of my flowers, I dry them, my rose petals or whatever, and I use a mixture of flowers that I offer Oshun. And once they're dried and I get a nice big batch, I turn it into an oil. And then I strain it and I use it. I use it as a base for perfumes. I use it as a body oil that I use daily. I just use the hell out of it. Okay. Infusions. So infusions are an herbal product. And basically an infusion is a tea. Okay. And to make an infusion, you're going to use 1 teaspoon of dried herbs or 2 teaspoons of fresh herbs to 1 cup of water. And you can pour the boiling water over the herb and let it steep. Like I said, it's a cup of tea, basically. Decoctions are another type of infusion, but decoctions are usually used for roots or barks because they require a little bit more vigorous activity, a little bit more force to get the constituents out of the bark. So whereas with a tea, or an infusion, you can use that for the leaves and the flowers and so on. Just pour the boiling water over it and let it sit. For the decoction, you're actually going to have to boil it. Okay. And the way that you want to do that, or the recipe for that, is going to be 30 grams of dried herb to 40 grams of fresh herb. And then you're going to cover that with 3 cups of water, and you're going to allow it to boil until it's reduced down to 2 cups. So it's very concentrated. Okay. And you're going to do that over slow heat. Okay. None of this is fast. Herbal medicine isn't fast. It doesn't work fast, and it's not created fast. Okay. And then you strain it and you use it however you need to, depending on what it is that you're treating. Soaps can also be medicinal. especially and obviously when we're talking about skin conditions. The way that I make herbal soaps or medicinal soaps, I make both a solid soap and a liquid soap. It just depends on what it is that I'm treating. Um, if I'm making a solid soap, I will actually use African black soap, and it comes in a block, and I chop it up, literally. I chop it up, break it down, and I use a mortar and pestle. Let me show you guys my mortar and pestle. I know I have several of them. I have two in here with me right now. Hold on, let me just grab them. Oh God. So these are just two in my collection. And it seems like I buy a mortar and pestle everywhere I go. And y'all know I travel a lot. So this is one that is marble. And it's T90. It's real little. And I use this. This has actually got some dirt, some graveyard dirt in the bottom of it right now. And this is one of my prized possessions. This actually came from the Sahara Desert. It's made out of wood and leather. I got this in Morocco. And this is, it's a mortar and pestle. And so I use it to pound. I use this one particularly for my soaps. It's actually got some black soap in the bottom of it right now. So I will chop my black soap up into little pieces, and I put it in here, and I add my herbs and my oils and my magical waters or whatever else I need, and I pound and I pound and I pound and I pound. And sometimes I get the kids to come in here and they pound. And we pound and pound until it is a homogeneous substance, until all of the herbs are broken down, until it's all very well mixed. And I just know in spirit when it's ready. And so then by this time it's like soft. It's almost like a putty. And I will take it out and either form it into a block or roll it into balls or whatever, however I want to do it. You can even put it into molds if you want. So that's how I make a solid soap. If I am making a liquid soap, you can do that by using glycerin and just infusing your herbs into the glycerin, or I prefer to use a Castile soap. And I will put my herbs and my oils into the Castile soap, put it in a glass jar, shake it up every day for 2 or 3 weeks, strain it, and then I have my liquid soap. And you can use that to wash the body, wash a particular part of the body, depending on what it is that you're trying to address or heal. Okay. Baths. If we've talked about baths once, we've talked about them 1,000 times. So you guys know how to make baths, right? And if you don't, you'll probably get to see me make one in our lab because I love to make baths and I make them all the time. But basically, there's 2 ways that you can make a bath. You can make an herbal infusion where you're putting your herbs together. You're putting them in a pot on the stove. You boil it and you have this mixture. And then you literally pour that into your bath water. Or you can make a mixture using herbs and salts. And that's how you do it. So you take whatever herbs you need to address whatever issue you're having. You can use the mortar and pestle and grind it up and mix it very well. And then add that to your bath. Okay. Another thing, baths can be very aromatic. They can be very healing, particularly if a person has a cold or is dealing with any type of respiratory issue. That would be an excellent time to add things like mint and camphor and eucalyptus. So baths can actually be healing for the physical body and also the skin just as much as they can be for spiritual purposes. Okay. Ooh, ladies. You can actually add, there's a crystal called alum, and it's not a crystal like a rock, but it comes in rock form, okay, in crystal form. but it's called alum, alum. You can actually, so alum has magical properties. Okay, it can be used to stop gossip and keep people from talking about you, among other things. But it can also be added to a bath to tighten your lady parts. Okay, if you don't believe me, just Google it, look it up. But I have alum as part of my collection of herbs and stuff. And it's something, it's very gentle. You can just pound it up and add a little bit to your bath water just as a regular maintenance regimen. Okay. Um, Capsules. So you can make capsules with herbs. Okay. So if you know that you want to get more of this particular substance into your diet, into your body, you can make capsules with it. You're going to need to use a powdered form of the herb. So if you are going to dry your own herbs, you want to make sure that the herb is sufficiently dried, and then you want to use your mortar and pestle or a coffee grinder to turn it into a powder. And then you are going to fill um, veggie capsules with the substance, and 250 milligrams of an herb powder will fill 100 size capsule. Okay, so this is something that you might have to play around with a little bit. And definitely, if you're going to make capsules, you're not going to be making one or two at a time. Like that's like a Saturday afternoon. Okay, you need to be making and filling capsules, but it's definitely something worth doing if you want. If you are a person who can take pills, and that's how you want to begin to incorporate the herbs into your diet and your daily regimen. And then finally, the last item that I have on my list of products to make is syrups. Okay. Um, Syrups are really just a creature comfort. They help the herbs go down. A lot of these herbs are bitter and nasty. And that's the thing that I will tell you about herbal medicines. Like they're nasty many, many times. Okay. And you just have to come to accept that and just take your medicine. Okay. But syrups kind of help that process out, um, by adding a sweetener basically to an herbal infusion. A baseline recipe for a syrup will be 2 cups of any infusion or decoction. And you can also do it with a tincture. Okay. I've done it with tinctures before. And so 2 cups. And then you want to use 500 grams of honey or raw sugar. And you're just going to mix it up. Mix it up, shake it up, shake, shake, shake it. Keep it in the refrigerator, and then you take it from there. And the average serving is usually 1 to 2 teaspoons 3 times a day. So you just want to make sure that you start out with a very potent infusion before you mix it with the honey or whatever, because that is going to stretch it and reduce the potency of it. So that is the class for today. I wanted to give you guys ideas about the different types of medicinal products that can be created, and the different parts of the plants that can be used. So, do you guys have any questions? Please ask me questions or make comments. Don't make me start a Zoom. Well, did y'all learn anything? Am I just talking to hear myself talk? Not aloe, alum, alum. Not aloe, alum. Look it up. ALUM. You can't find Lady Slipper. Did you go to Mountain Rose Herbs or Bulk Apothecary? And when all else fails, Amazon, girl, you can find it. You couldn't find it on Amazon or, you couldn't find it on Mountain Rose or Bulk Apothecary. Check Amazon. When all else fails, you should be able to find it on Amazon, I would imagine. Latanya, you said you have a few ideas. Good. That was what I wanted to do. Okay, you found someone selling them. Hold on, let me see. So I see, Velarda, you ain't never lied, girl. I see the tincture on Amazon. I see the seeds if you want to grow it yourself. You want to grow the flowers. Well, you were right. You might have to order from that person on Etsy because Amazon didn't have it, and that is wild because Amazon usually has everything. Okay. Do you guys have any questions for me? Any questions, comments, concerns? You know, this is a hard class to try to teach in terms of medicines because it really was not and is not my intention to teach you guys how to make medicine. You know what I mean? Because you need to do that based on what your needs are. But I did, and I do want you to have a very good framework for figuring out how to make medicine. You know, knowing how to do it. Um, and so that was my point for teaching you the types of medicines that can be made. So everybody have an idea of, you know what? Hold on, y'all. Okay, you guys, I just started a Zoom. So go on over if you don't mind. Go on over to Zoom, you guys. Hi, Justice. I see you, but I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. Hey, Princess.
Hi.
Wow, this is weird.
Y'all, we are over at the Zoom. Tanya, you're in the tub. Well, I don't know what to tell you, sis. We're over on Zoom. Um, I'm going to put it in the group chat as well. Hi, Natasha.
Hi.
How are you?
Hey, Natasha.
Hi, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm in the tub.
That's a nice picture.
Hi, Latasha. Pretty girl.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful picture. I was like, I know she's not sitting in the tub looking like that. Then I realized it was a picture. I was like, golly. Oh God. Okay, so I just wanted to hold on, where is everybody? Come on, everybody. You can exit out of the chat once you come on over. I mean, you can exit out of the YouTube. Let me do this.
Can I ask a random question?
Yes, baby. What is it?
Okay. I hear a lot of, not here, I see a lot of lone witches, work with, what's her name? Santísima Muerte. Is there an Orisha that would have like a similar energy to that? Now, I don't want to fool with that, but I'm just curious because so many people always talk about it. And I'm like, don't y'all? And then they say, like she's very dangerous and very mean. And I'm like, well, why y'all fooling with her then? Like,
Okay, hold on one second, Justice. Let me just, for those who looks like there's still 2 people on the YouTube live. You guys, we have migrated over to Zoom. I put the link here. We're just going to spend 15 or 20 minutes discussing the next class and answering questions that people might have about their herbs, their herbal preparations. So I'm going to end the chat. I'm going to end the live now. And you should be able to watch the playback of the Zoom if you missed that as well. The link is in the chat. Okay.